Member for Menzies.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Time puts things in perspective, and we can look to a year ago when we had an election and how things have changed. But before I do that, I'd like to look back a bit deeper to 1990. I remember 1990 as a child. There was the top hits were Sinead O'Connor, MC Hammer and Madonna. But I also remember it was a World Cup year and staying up late to watch the Italian World Cup with my dad. But I also remember that year because that was the year in January 1990 where this country saw 17% interest rates. And it's often used as the high watermark for a period where Australians did it particularly tough. And it was particularly tough because it led into a recession that we didn't have to have. And it's often used for those who can remember that time in folklore. I remember my father, we hadn't been long arrived in Australia, qualified as a roof plumber. And he qualified as a roof plumber to start his own business as a tradesman who could help people and also help our family to put his 3 boys through school. But I remember that recession hit so hard because it was a choice between keeping your home or keeping your business. And I fear that we are heading into a very similar period in Australian economic history. And we can trade insults about who's to blame and who's the best economic manager, but real Australians are hurting right now. And recently I went and met a cafe owner in my area who runs Cafe Project Black. It is an enormously successful business in Mitcham. And in fact, it was voted as the second best coffee in Melbourne. And I sat down to talk to him, to listen to him as to what it's actually like for someone running a small business. And he said he would like to employ more people, but he can't. He can't afford it. The increased costs of energy, of labour, of interest rates mean him and his wife are the ones who have to work 7 days a week. He noted that after the lockdowns ended in Melbourne, he was serving about 70 kilograms of coffee a week. I asked him, how many kilos are you serving now? And he said, 30 kilos a week. And then in an impassioned Facebook post to his customers, he said, I'm so sorry that I might have to increase the price of your coffee, because he's such a good small business owner that he takes pride in his product and takes pride in his customers, and he knew that they were struggling to pay the increased cost that he's facing. And he said to me he's worried that he may not survive. And I worry that those are some of the decisions that small businesses are facing again, just like they did in 1990. Only it's potentially worse. We talk about 17% interest rates like it's a number by itself, but what is important is the ratio of that interest rate to the debt that Australians have. Australians now have 3 times the debt that we had in 1990. 3 times. And let's not forget what happened in 1990. As a percentage of mortgage interest payments as a share of total household income went from 4.5% to 6%. And what did that do? That saw a huge increase in unemployment in this country, a huge increase in defaults, a huge increase in small businesses closing. It took the best part of a decade to recover from that. And part of that recovery saw a Liberal government reduce debt, reduce spending, reduce the size of government, because government is not the answer for small businesses. They do it themselves. We've heard speech after speech about how you are the great saviours for people who are struggling, how it's the government that will provide answers. It's not. That is an insult to the people like the owner of Project Black Coffee in Mitcham. It is them that are doing the work. He doesn't go to sleep every night thanking you and thanking the Albanese government for the great things you're doing for him. He goes to sleep every night thinking, what school trip am I going to have to cut tomorrow? What sporting program will my children not be able to go to? What fresh meat will I not be able to serve on the dinner table because it might go off and I can't afford it anymore? And he's going to think, who will I have to let go of in my business? And what second job will I have to take just to pay the increased mortgage payments that he has on his house and he has on his business? And the numbers are extreme. I've spoken about 1990, but you only have to go back 1 year ago. Australians are entitled to ask if they are better off now than they were a year ago. And $25,000 a year more has to be found. That is before tax income. So families have to find an extra income of $50,000 or find savings of $25,000. And when you sit down and go through that exercise, That is a tough ask for families, and we should all do better.
Thank you. I give the call to the member for Macon.